Eurasian equestrian warrior women. The Amazons, the Eurasian women warriors, are figures that feature prominently in Greek culture, art, and mythology. The fact that the Amazons, first mentioned in Homeric epics, began to be frequently depicted on Greek vases, wall paintings, and sculptures over time is clear evidence that the female warrior image was settled in Greek culture. Greek historians provide clear evidence about the Amazons' region of residence and their way of life. Archaeological excavations have revealed the rich graves of warrior women in the region extending from the Sea of Azov to the Ural Mountains. These graves prove that the Amazons belonged to the Eurasian nomadic culture and were part of the Scythian culture. While the existence of Amazons in the Black Sea region has not yet been proven, it is clear that communities belonging to the Eurasian nomadic culture existed here. It is clear that the Amazons adopted the worship of Kubaba Kibil as a result of their relations with the Anatolian peoples and the Greeks. The Amazons first appear in ancient texts and works of art. The Amazons, described in detail in Homer's Iliad and in the history book of Herodotus, were mentioned by ancient writers until the Roman period and left many traces in historical records. The term Amazons, meaning warrior women, continues to be reflected even today. In Greek, Amazon means without breasts. The Amazons, who rode horses like men and became famous for their warrior character, also had a great impact on the artistic field of the Greek classical period. The Amazons played a pivotal role in the legends surrounding the founding of Greek cities on the western coast of Anatolia. From the late Archaic period onwards, Amazon women have been depicted in vase paintings, friezes of architectural structures, and sculptures by famous sculptors. In this respect, until recently, Amazons have always been treated as legendary figures and evaluated alongside mythological stories, with their role in Greek art being the main focus. However, recent archaeological excavations in Ukraine and the Urals have revealed the existence of tombs belonging to warrior women, which casts doubt on the historical reality of the Amazons. Greek historians are clear that the Amazons lived in Themyscira, Wednesday Plain, on the banks of the Thermodon, Terme River, on the eastern borders of Greece. They also confirm that their homeland was the Scythian lands in southern Russia, Ukraine, the Scythian lands in Thrace, Libya, and North Africa. The mythological stories of the Amazons, who have gained a mythological character in Greek history, will be evaluated in comparison with the information given by ancient writers. With historical and archaeological data, we will examine the relationship between the Sumerian Scythian tribes and the Amazons, and the share of truth in the Amazon myths. Amazons in ancient sources. Amazons appear in Greek culture and art from the 8th century BC. Homer is the first written source to mention Amazons. In the Iliad, Amazons are mentioned among the allies of the Trojans. Priamos confirms that he participated in a battle against the Amazons in Phrygia. The bard uses the description Antianerai, manly, for the Amazons. In another episode, he confidently states that the Lycian hero Bellerophontes killed the Amazons. The Amazons fought on the side of the Trojans in the war, as we know from Virgilius's epic poem Aeneas. The Amazons fought with their crescent-shaped shields under the leadership of Penthesilea in the Trojan War, as mentioned here. The first historical data comes from Herodotus after the Trojan epic. He confidently describes the Amazons as members of the Sarmatian tribe, points to Thermodon as the region where they lived, and states that the Scythians called the Amazons Oiorpata, man-killing. The most comprehensive description of the Amazons comes from Diodorus of Sicily. He confidently states that the Scythians spread from the Caucasus and Lake Maeotis, Sea of Azov, to Thrace and even Egypt. He states that some Scythian tribes migrated towards Pontus and Paphlagonia under the pressure of the Assyrians, while others remained between Media and Tanais, Don River Delta, and were called Sarmatians. During the reign of the Persian king Cyrus, The Scythian government was dominated by women. This is evidenced by Cyrus's war with the Scythian queen. Diodorus of Sicily is clear that the Amazons were Scythians and lived in a large city called Themyscira on the banks of the Thermodon River, where there was a large palace. He states that the Amazon queen, whom he describes as the daughter of Ares, set the laws and led the women during the war. He states that women cauterize the breasts of their daughters when they are babies because they believe it weakens them in war. Hippocrates also reports that the Scythians living on the shores of Lake Maeotis were known as Sarmatians, and that their women could not marry until they killed their enemies in battle. He states that these women did not have right breasts, and that they were cauterized as infants by their mothers with the help of a red-hot bronze tool. Apollonius of Rhodes, who lived at the end of the 3rd century BC, states in his book describing the journey of the Argonauts on the Black Sea coast in search of the Golden Fleece that the Amazons lived in the regions he mentions. He confidently states that the capital of the Amazons was Thermodon and that they consisted of 3 tribes. He states that the Amazon Melanippe, who was trapped by Heracles, and Hippolyte, who saved Melanippe by giving her shining belt to Heracles as a ransom, were the daughters of Ares. Apollonius of Rhodes states that the Amazons were the daughters of Ares and Harmonia and sacrificed sheep around an altar to the god in the temple of Ares. This temple, which is described as roofless, has a black stone that is considered sacred. The Amazons used to pray around this stone. Diodorus of Sicily makes a fascinating connection between the Amazons and Libya. Diodorus states that the Amazons lived in the Thermodon region, but in earlier times they were in Libya. He confidently describes the region he refers to as Libyan territory as similar to the mythology of Atlas and the Hesperids in Greek mythology, and then confidently mentions that a large city called Chersonesus was founded in this region. It is clear that Diodorus of Sicily misunderstood the ancient texts he used and thought that Chersonesus was in Libya. The author makes it clear that the Amazons in Libya traveled from Libya to Syria, Cilicia, and from there to the banks of the Caicos River, Bacchae, in Phrygia. Despite the incorrect location of Chersonesus in Diodorus's texts, our conclusion is that the Amazons lived there. Ancient texts provide a wealth of information about the geography where the Amazons lived. We know that the geography extended from the Caucasus to the coasts of the Sea of Azov in present-day Ukraine, the coasts of the Thermodon River, Terme River, in the Black Sea within the borders of Samsun today, and that Thracian connections were involved. Furthermore, it is known that the Amazons were present in Sicily and the Aegean Islands, as well as in Libya. The extent of the geography of the regions where the Amazons lived or were found is unclear. However, it is clear that they all agree on one thing: the banks of the Thermodon River and the shores of Lake Maeotis. To determine the emergence of the Amazons and the regions where they existed based on historical texts, we must carefully examine the events related to the Amazons in the texts, determine a certain chronology and regional boundary, and question the authenticity of these data. This will help us reach healthier results with the help of archaeological data. Archaeological evidence shows that the Scythian region in antiquity was Eurasia, stretching between the Altai Mountains in the east and Thrace in the west. Ancient sources also mention the Maeotis Sea, north of the Black Sea between the Danube and Tanais rivers, where the Scythians lived. Archaeological evidence shows that the Scythians were present in this region from the 7th to the 3rd century BC. Herodotus and other ancient writers confirm that the Amazons lived in the south of the Black Sea, where the Thermodon River flows. The Sarmatians were born from the fusion of the Amazons with the Scythians. Guliaev is clear that Herodotus's information that the Amazons were Sarmatians is supported by the results of archaeological excavations carried out in the Volga and Ural region in the 1960-70 period. In these excavations, the density of weapons and horse harnesses in the graves of rich women is unmistakable. The presence of ritual items, such as stone altars among the grave finds, demonstrates that these women had a religious identity in addition to their warrior aspects. In 1991, 112 graves of women aged between 16 and 30 were found between the Danube and Don rivers. In the Ukrainian graves, ornaments such as bronze bracelets, necklaces, and mirrors, as well as a large number of bronze arrowheads and spearheads, were found in the form of war belts made of leather covered with iron plates. The arrow lodged in the knee of a female skeleton in one grave is clear evidence that the deceased woman died in a battle. These graves prove that they died at a young age. In some graves, the skeletons of infants or children were buried together with the skeletons of women, which suggests that they were not virgins, but married with children. The graves found near the Don River are generally dated to the 5th to 4th centuries BC. The presence of objects reflecting the Scythian animal style together with Greek vases in some tombs dated to the 4th century BC and the P. These graves prove that they died at a young age. In some graves, the skeletons of infants or children were buried together with the skeletons of women, which means they were not virgins, but married with children. The graves found near the Don River are generally dated to the 5th to 4th centuries BC. The presence of Scythian animal-style objects, together with Greek vases in some tombs, dated to the 4th century BC, and the presence of a large number of jewelry and weapons, indicate that these tombs belonged to rich and noble women. This confirms the Amazon type described by ancient texts. Guliaev confidently asserts that the Amazons lived in the Don region from the end of the 6th century BC. He also suggests that the female warriors described by Herodotus as Sarmatian women may have been women who served as warriors in the Scythian state. He also proves that Scythian women served on an equal footing with men in military terms, as Diodorus of Sicily stated. The kurgans near the Don River provide indisputable evidence that the Amazons, the legendary warrior women known from Greek art and texts, actually existed. Davis Kimball's study on the existence of Eurasian women warriors focuses on the tombs of women she describes as priestesses, warriors, or warrior priestesses, who were of high status in the regions between South Siberia and Kazakhstan and in the Ural steppes north of Afghanistan. He is certain that the women in the graves in the southern Ural region are Sarmatians. The graves in the Ural region date from the 6th century BC to the 2nd century BC. The Karagodawashk tumulus in the Kuban Valley, the Pazyryk kurgans, the tombs in the Ukok Plateau of Siberia, the Tilya Tepe excavations in Afghanistan, the Esek kurgan, the Prokhorovska and Filipovka kurgans in the south of Kazakhstan. The data obtained from the excavations in the kurgans of Esek, Prokhorovska, and Filipovka in Kazakhstan revealed the graves of women in the status of high-level warriors and priestesses in a wide geography extending from Afghanistan to Ukraine. The findings span a period from the 5th century BC to the 3rd century BC. Davis Kimball is clear that these women were members of the nomadic Sarmatian society. While the religious objects vary according to the time period and region, there is one common feature: the worship of the mother goddess, which initially emerged as the mother goddess, transformed into the goddess of animals, and later into Kebel in this culture. The Black Sea region has been the subject of increasing archaeological interest in recent years. However, the publication and regional interpretation of the results of the excavations have enabled us to gain valuable information. We will undoubtedly reach healthier conclusions in the future once we have access to much more detailed archaeological data. The most important information we have gained from recent years' findings is the identification of clues regarding the presence of Cimmerians and Scythians in the Black Sea. Donmez discusses the Eurasian warrior-mounted nomads in the Black Sea region in the light of archaeological data from Mashat Hoyuk, Oluz Hoyuk, Amasya, Boğazköy, Samsun, Emirler Kurganı in Amasya, and Sinop. The presence of horse harnesses belonging to the equestrian nomadic society in the aforementioned centers, the fact that horses were also buried in the graves, and the discovery of bronze arrow and spearheads are clear indications that the items were obtained through purchase in museums or accidentally discovered during excavations. This is why they have not attracted much attention until today. The most compelling evidence for this study comes from kurgans and tumuli. The war implements found at Amasya Emirler, Elazığ Norşuntepe, Ankara Polatlı Gordion, and Demirci Hoyuk in Eskişehir prove that these graves belong to an equestrian nomadic society. They included war picks, swords, arrowheads, horse harnesses, as well as human and horse bones. The earliest of these finds is the Emirler Kurgan, Amasya, dating to the early 8th century BC. The Scythian arrowheads, horse harnesses, and a crater fragment depicting a warrior on horseback from Ulus Hoyuk, a horse harness from Mashat Hoyuk, and a war pickaxe hilt from Sinop, another important Black Sea site, prove the existence of a Eurasian warrior equestrian nomadic society in the Black Sea region as early as the 8th century BC. These finds do not prove the presence of the Amazons in the Black Sea, but they do prove that they belong to a Eurasian nomadic horse warrior tribe. Donmez is clear in his study that the fact that the find groups in the Black Sea region came to the museums through illicit excavations or purchases, and the artifacts found in the excavations were not evaluated by escaping attention, provides valuable clues to our subject. These clues are not conclusive evidence. Sumerian, Scythian incursions in Anatolia and their reflections in art. The archaeological data from Eurasia and the Black Sea region has been presented above, and the clues about the Eurasian tribes have been listed. In order to evaluate these clues in a healthier way, it is essential to evaluate the Eurasian horse-drawn nomadic tribes coming from the Eurasian region to Anatolia with historical and archaeological data in order to make a healthier interpretation. This study examines the evidence for the presence of the Sumerians and Scythians in Anatolia based on necropolis finds. It discusses the existence of the Sumerians, who moved towards Anatolia in the 8th century BC under the threat of the Scythians in the light of written evidence and necropolis finds. The oldest written sources on the Sumerians are Assyrian inscriptions. It is clear from ancient sources that the city of Magnesia was destroyed as a result of a great war in Lydia. Strabon provides a detailed account of how the Traris tribe of the Sumerians destroyed Magnesia. The earliest information about the Sumerians in Greek sources comes from Homer's Odyssey, and the most detailed information is provided by Herodotus. By the end of the 8th century BC, they had reached Phrygia and destroyed Gordion. Gyges, the Lydian king, requested Assyrian assistance against the Sumerians, who were advancing in western Anatolia. The destruction layers of the Sumerians in Lydia are dated to 668 and 652 BC. The Sumerians destroyed Miletus and Clazomenae in Ionia. The agreement between Alyattes and the Median king in 585 BC resulted in the Sumerians being driven out of the region. The Sumerian raids in continental Greece had a profound impact, as evidenced by the identification of the Sumerian figure on the François vase with its name. The Sumerian figure type, distinguished by its pointed cap, is also seen in the scenes depicting the struggle between the Greeks and the Sumerians on the Clazomenae sarcophagi. Although the Sumerians disappear from Anatolia, which came under Persian rule in the 6th century BC, the Scythians emerge at this time. The Scythians are more common in northern Anatolia than the Sumerians. The most important information comes from Herodotus. The establishment of dense Greek colonies in the Black Sea region in the 6th century BC led to the Greeks and Scythians establishing a friendly relationship. The discovery of Greek vases from Scythian kurgans and the depiction of Scythian figures on Greek vases, except in battle scenes, provides irrefutable proof of this. After the 8th century BC, relations between Persia and Scythia were strained due to the invasions of the Scythians in Iranian territories. In the burial chamber of the tumulus of a Persian commander at Kalaini in Afyan Dinar, the struggles between Persia and Scythia are described as a war won by Persia. The tumulus is dated to around 480 BC. The tumulus paintings depicting the Persians' victories against the Scythians are clear parallels to the Amazonomachi scenes depicting the Greek struggle against the Amazons in the 5th century BC. Both are similar and contemporary. Let's examine the Amazons in Greek art. The most obvious concrete data on this subject is the depictions of Amazons in Greek art. This is because studies on Amazons have focused on their presence in Greek art. The earliest artistic examples come from vase paintings from the late 6th century BC. The depictions of the struggle between Heracles and the Amazon clearly overlap with the stories of the struggle between Heracles and the Amazon Hippolyte in ancient texts. In these texts, the Amazons are clearly described as warrior women living in the Thermodon region, riding horses like men and, most interestingly, as the daughters of Ares. In the 5th century BC, the war between the Greeks and the Amazons became one of the most popular subjects, especially in architectural sculpture. In mythology, the Amazons attacked Attica after Heracles killed the Amazon queen Hippolyte and then kidnapped her sister Antiope by Theseus. The Amazons retreated after Antiope sided with Theseus, and Athens was besieged. The scenes depicting the battles between the Amazons and the Greeks are universally known as Amazonomachi. The best-known examples of this are the sculptural works depicted on the metopes on the western walls of the Parthenon and on the shield of the Parthenon's cult statue, on the friezes of the Temple of Apollo at Bassae, and on the throne on which the cult statue of the Temple of Zeus at Olympia sits. The Amazonomachi subject, especially on the walls of temples, is undoubtedly the representation of the defeat of the Persians by the Greeks in 480 BC. The fact that this subject, which symbolizes the superiority of Greek society over non-Greek, barbarian societies, was carved by famous sculptors on the walls of the Trisa Harun in Lycia in 380 BC and on the walls of the Mausoleon built for the Persian satrap Mausolus in 350 BC, makes it clear that Amazonomachi is one of the popular subjects of Greek art, symbolizing only victory, and not a theme symbolizing Greek superiority. It is important to remember that the depictions of heroes such as Heracles, Theseus, and Achilles, who triumphed by killing the Amazon queen, have been widely used since the 6th century BC, when they entered Greek art. The existence of different Amazon types in the depictions of Amazons throughout the period makes it clear that the Greeks did encounter Amazons. A more realistic approach is that they may have encountered female warriors once or several times in the 8th to 7th centuries BC. The image of a female warrior, which was not present in Greek culture, created a shock effect and became legendary over time, taking its place in Greek mythology. In fact, Priamos's account in the Iliad of seeing Amazons during the war in Phrygia is a clear reflection of this. The way the Amazons are depicted in Greek art allows us to understand how the Greeks perceived the Amazons. When evaluated from this point of view, we see that Amazon figures are depicted in two types in Greek art: Greek warrior type and Eastern warrior type. Eurasian states that in the Greek type, Amazon women are depicted wearing short chitons, armor, and helmets, and are mostly seen in vase paintings of the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. In the Eastern type, they are depicted with Scythian, Thracian, Persian, and Anatolian warrior types. They reflect a combination of Scythian with their pointed hats, bows, and arrows, Thracian with their half-moon-shaped shields, Persian with their trousers, and Anatolian with their double-headed axes. These depictions were widely used from the 6th century BC to the 5th century AD. The subjects of the vase depictions are Heracles' killing of Hippolyte, Theseus's struggle with the Amazons, and Achilles' killing of Penthesilea. The Amazon figures seen in sculpture from the 5th century BC onwards are depicted wearing a short chiton and with one breast open. It is clear that the Greek masters used the Greek type that they were familiar with at first in order to depict the subject they were asked to depict. However, it is clear that the figure types of Amazons belonging to a barbarian, non-Greek tribe changed based on the Sumerian and later Scythian figures that existed in Greek artistic memory. However, the Greek type, with short chiton, continued until late antiquity as a type that overlapped with the Antianiri manly description of the Amazons and had a special meaning for the Greeks. Cities founded by Amazons. It is clear from the reflections of Amazons as warrior female figures in both mythology and art that the significant presence of Amazons in the foundation myths of Greek cities on the western Anatolian coast must be evaluated. It is a well-known fact that each of the Greek city-states, polis, had a mythological origin regarding its foundation and origin in accordance with the ethnic structure and location. The Amazons existed long before the Trojan Wars and were neighbors to Troy. In the world of the Homeric epics, the Amazons became famous as the enemies of the Greeks, rather than the heroes that gave their name to Greek cities. From this perspective, it is clear that the founders of Greek cities were initially dominated by male heroes or gods. It is clear that almost all city names are feminine, yet they are always associated with a founding male hero or god. Western Anatolia is home to numerous cities with founding myths that they were founded in the name of Amazon queens from the 8th century BC to the 4th century BC. Myrina, Kyme, Pitane, Priene, Ephesus, and Smyrna are the most famous of these. Strabo is clear that many cities in Anatolia were founded by Amazons. There are tombs and other monuments of their founders in these cities. Pausanias, in his account of the foundation of Ephesus, states that the cult of Artemis existed before the Ionian immigrants arrived and that it was founded by the Amazons. Sinope was named after a nymphy or an Amazon who married the king of this region. Hecataios states that Kyme was a place belonging to or dedicated to the Amazons. Hecataios states that although early sources claim that the cities of Iolia and Kyme were founded by the successors of Tantalus, Pelops, and Agamemnon, it is clear that Kyme had a cult for the Amazon, who was believed to be its founder. Later, Sinope, Ephesus, Smyrna, and Myrina are indisputably cities that claim to have an Amazonian past. Bloch is clear that the tradition of cities attributing their mythological sources to the Amazons spread rapidly. Tacitus provides clear evidence that Smyrna was founded by Tantalus, Theseus, and even one of the Amazons. He is clear that the founding legends of cities, especially those whose foundation dates back to the Archaic and Classical periods, are widespread because they give them privilege among other cities. The Amazons were a popular subject in Greek mythology and art during the Archaic and Classical periods. This is clear evidence that they were widely known and celebrated. The structure of Greek cities is clear. Cities that have been in continuity since the Mycenaean period are related to the land region. Athens is a prime example. Its myths of the founding of cities are well known. The cities in Anatolia were founded after the intense Ionian migration in the 1st millennium BC or during the colonial period, which gained weight in the 8th century BC. It is clear that in the Hellenistic period, cities were either re-established or newly founded in parallel with the policies of Alexander the Great. It is clear that Greek cities in Anatolia were founded in 3 ways and in 3 periods. It is clear that after the foundation of the Greek polis, they created foundation myths based on divine or mythological heroes to ensure the unity and solidarity of their people. It is known that the cities founded in the colonial period were carried out by the person or persons assigned by oracles. It is also known that they glorified the founders of their cities by heroizing them and created important tombs or sacred areas for them. It is clear that mythological legends emerged with gods or heroes. This provided them with a divine connection to the founding of the city. This tradition is directly related to the tradition of making sacred offerings in the tombs of heroes in the Mycenaean period. It is clear that they brought this belief with them and tried to keep it alive in the new cities they founded. This ensured the official and religious unity of the polis. It is clear that such a requirement was preferred in the cities established during the colonial period in order to fuse the local population with the newcomers and create a common urban consciousness. It is clear that in the sanctuaries created in the city center, a cult associated with the founding gods or goddesses and the beliefs of the local population was established. In the cities founded during the colonial period, myths were accepted that provided a kind of agreement with the previous inhabitants of the city. This identity was created to be used by the city in its relationship with the outside world. In the cities founded in the Hellenistic period, this was achieved by fusing the Greek gods with the local gods and creating a common cult. In the Roman period, it is more common to see depictions of emperors in relation to local gods or the establishment of cult areas. This allows us to understand the practices of earlier periods. Once you understand the concern to establish the mythological origin of Greek cities, it is crucial to remember that these myths clarify the issues related to the beginning, emergence, and that they actually contain some truth. In the introduction to the title Amazons, Erhard makes it clear that the myths of Anatolia are based on facts and are about people who lived. The fusion between the Greeks and the settled cultures in Anatolia provides us with invaluable information that helps us understand the emergence of myths. The Greeks had extensive relations with the Lelegs, Carians, Phrygians, and Lydians during their migration to the coasts of western Anatolia. Kyme and Smyrna are the best examples, since they were neighbors of Phrygia and the Lydians. The fact that Kyme was captured by Lydia for a period, and that the Phrygian king Midas II married a woman from Kyme is the best example of the interaction between cultures and the acculturation process of the cities in this region. This will help us understand how myths are transferred from culture to culture. The Phrygian goddess Cybele entering the Greek pantheon and the donation of Greek Artemis by the Lydian king Croesus are clear examples of this fusion. Bloch proposes that we consider the relationship between these cities in Anatolia, known for their Greek identity, and the Amazons. He offers Kyme as an example. He is certain that the myth of the founding of Kyme, the Greek polis, is linked to the descendants of Agamemnon, and thus to the Trojan War. However, this did not represent the local population of Kyme. This association of the city with a heroine of Amazonian identity proves that both Greek and local culture can be represented by such a female figure, who also appears in the Homeric epics. The epic source of the Amazons' meaning of wife with man also coincided with the male-dominated structure of Greek culture. The story of the Amazon in the atrium of Teos explicitly states that she married a non-Greek king. It is therefore clear that she also represents the marital relations between the local people and the Greeks. Another foundation myth of Kyme, mentioned by Bloch, states that the city founded by Pelops was later captured by the Amazon queen Kyme, who named the city after herself. He is certain that she voluntarily accepted a founding mythos that would represent the presence of local inhabitants before the Greeks arrived. The Amazons are known to have founded several cities in northwestern Anatolia, from Sinope to Aeolia, which includes Troy. He is clear that the Amazons were an enemy of the Greeks, but a community of equal power. He goes on to say that they were represented in the Iliad as local elements, often with a Greek presence in the cities, and that this continued with Heracles and Theseus. It is irrelevant whether the Amazons existed or not. What matters is that they became an epic identity for the city, replacing the symbol of local and feminine belief. The Amazons worshipped the mother goddess. It is clear that the matriarchal structure of the Amazons is related to the belief in the mother goddess. There is clear evidence that the belief in the mother goddess was widespread in the Scythian period, in the Caucasus and northern Black Sea region, and in Anatolia. In Anatolia, the belief in Artemis existed before the foundation of the city, as evidenced by the worship of Cybele, Artemis, Demeter, and other goddesses. Ephesus, which is believed to have been founded by Amazons, was also a center of Artemis worship. The depiction of the mother goddess figure on bronze mirrors or earrings found in the kurgans in Ukraine is clear evidence of the existence of this belief in the Scythians. Archaeological excavations in the Volga and Ural regions have revealed that high-status women were not just warriors, but also had a religious identity. Findings with ritual functions such as stone altars show that these women had a dual identity. The excavations in the Kurgans near the Don River have proven that the warrior women known from Greek art and texts provide irrefutable evidence that the Amazons actually existed. In his evaluation of the grave finds, Davis Kimball states that the female warrior tombs were members of the nomadic Sarmatian society. While there are religious objects that vary according to the time period and region to which they belong, the common feature of all of them is that the belief, which initially emerged as the mother goddess, was worshipped as the goddess of animals in this culture and later transformed into Cybele. Herodotus states that Cybele was brought to the Scythians by Anacharsis. Apollonius of Rhodes makes it clear that the Amazons were in a relationship with the Greek god of war Ares. He states that the Amazons were the daughters of Ares and that they sacrificed sheep around an altar to the god in his temple. It is known that there is a black stone in the temple that is considered sacred and described as roofless. It is also understood that the Amazons used to use this stone during prayers. It is clear that the sacred black stone in a roofless temple, which Apollonius of Rhodes associates with the god Ares, is an important element related to Cybele worship. This is supported by evidence from other regions. Apollonius was right to identify the cult, but wrong to associate it with Ares. It is known that the temple at Pessinus, Eskishahir, which belonged to Cybele, the most important religious figure of the Phrygians, had a black stone thought to be a meteorite. This stone was undoubtedly an important element in the birth of the belief in the mother goddess. In Olus Hoyuk in Amazia, which we mentioned above as a center where findings belonging to the Eurasian equestrian warrior nomadic culture in the Black Sea region were also found, it is clear that the architectural structure dated to 600–500 BC was the temple of Cybele, Kubaba. The Sumerian Scythians, and thus the Amazons, met Kubaba Cybele, the local deity of Anatolia, as a result of relations established with the Phrygians during the first Sumerian raids in the 8th century BC. It is therefore likely that they soon adopted the belief in the mother goddess. The ancient texts that show the Amazons in the Thermodon region praying around a black stone, which is considered sacred, and the cult objects belonging to the mother goddess found in the graves of Scythian female warriors in southern Russia and Ukraine prove that the Amazons adopted the belief in the mother goddess as early as the 6th century BC. It is also clear that the foundations of the temple of Cybele at Olus Hoyuk date back to the period in which the Amazons lived. Evaluation. The Amazons, with their identity as warrior women, have been the subject of unending fascination since antiquity. In the studies conducted to date, the interpretations of the Amazons in Greek mythology and art have been handled iconographically rather than their reality. This has led to them being evaluated with the meanings they symbolized for the Greeks. In our study, we have determined how the Amazons were perceived by the Greeks in ancient times. We have done this by using information about the Amazons in ancient sources, Amazon depictions in Greek art, and mythological stories. By comparing this information with historical data, we were able to determine the periods in which they may have lived. The data obtained from the excavations in the northern Black Sea and the Caucasus, along with the artifacts found in the Black Sea region, were evaluated in the light of archaeological data. The Iliad of Homer reports that the Amazons first came to Anatolia with the Sumerian raids in the 8th century BC. The female warriors in the Sumerian army must have attracted the attention and surprised the Greeks who encountered them for the first time. It is understood that the Greeks, who wrote the names of Cimmerian warriors on Greek vases, witnessed the Sumerian invasion. The Greeks had closer relations with the Scythians, who migrated to northern Anatolia and the Black Sea after the Sumerians. They undoubtedly had the chance to see the female warriors among the Scythians up close. Indeed, Herodotus and all subsequent historians, especially Herodotus, similarly mention the Amazons as related to the Scythians. It is clear that the women warriors mentioned in Herodotus were Sarmatian women who served as warriors in the Scythian state. Diodorus of Sicily states that Scythian women served on an equal military footing with men, while excavations the region between the Caucasus and the Sea of Azov in Eurasia yielded tombs of female warriors from the 5th and 4th centuries BC, proving that the female warriors the Greeks called Amazons actually existed. Subsequent excavations in Afghanistan and Tajikistan in Asia provide similar evidence, as do the 4th century BC tombs thought to belong to female warriors and priestesses. There is very little evidence for the Thermodon region, which constitutes the most important part of the information provided by the ancient authors. Finds dating to the 6th to 4th centuries BC belong to warrior horse nomads. The presence of the Temple of Cybele in the 1st century BC supports the belief that the Amazons were a real people, as depicted in ancient texts. As Dunmez rightly points out, with the intensification of archaeological studies in the central Black Sea region and the necessary attention to the evaluation of the finds, it is certain that much more precise evidence will be obtained in the future.